Unity Administration is celebrating its 5th anniversary, and in fact, those celebrations started in grand style on Monday with our visits to the industrial and manufacturing sector, and continues over the next couple or several weeks because we have an extended period of celebration, and rightly so. Perhaps it is good to start by giving God thanks, because the Team Unity movement, when we got officially started at that grand launch on the 26th of September 2013, was a movement, we were told, which would never happen. Many persons doubted whether the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, who had, as it were, identified themselves with political parties, could ever come together as a single unit to serve the national interests. On the 26th of September 2013, the leadership and membership of the People's Labour Party, the People's Action Movement, and the Concerned Citizens Movement answered in the affirmative, yes, we can. The rest is history, because indeed we have come this far since the historic launch in 2013. Indeed, when we were in the thrust of the campaign, the elements of the vision sought to create this unity with respect to the Team Unity movement. Thankfully, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis had of their own volition came to the conclusion that the country needed unity to end the cycle of divisiveness, to end the cycle of victimization, to bring a brand new relationship between the federal entity and the Nevis Island administration, and by extension, the people of Nevis. The country had to come together in unity. And polls after polls reflected it was the view of 70% of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes. On February 16th, after several efforts to undermine the democracy within the country by a government that had long lost the trust of the people, and indeed had no legitimacy, having lost the support of the majority of elected members in the parliament, the country had an opportunity to choose. And they chose Team Unity over every other. Today, as leader of the movement and as Prime Minister, I want to say thanks to all right-thinking people of St. Kitts and Nevis, to say that we on this side of the government and all our well-wishers appreciate that you had a choice and you chose us to serve the people. When we had the benefit of the support of the people, and that was being crystallized on the night of the 16th February 2015, again, the forces of division, the forces of obstruction attempted to silence the will of the people. And the announcement of the outcome suddenly was put on pause. I was, and the Honorable Attorney General, sworn in on the 18th of February 2015. The rest of the cabinet, They were sworn in on the 22nd of February 2015. The election losers, Mr. Speaker, declared that we would not last for 6 weeks. And then when we reached that milestone, they say we wouldn't last for 6 months. And they continue their tomfoolery for a long period of time. And now that we have gone for full term, they are now begging for the next general elections. Tomfoolery. Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to reflect on the circumstances 5 years ago. The tension in the country, the fact that today we are meeting in a parliament and there is peace pervading the land. It stands in stark contrast to the reality in 2015. Every parliament since 2013, Church Street had to be barricaded. The army men had to be in the streets. The police had to be in the streets. Certain persons were chosen from customs and excise, sent into the parliament, hidden as civilians with arms ready for action. That is the climate then. And you contrast it now to the situation where St. Kitts and Nevis is the safest place to be, to live, to do business. 5 years after, we can say that we have come full circle in the exercise of our democracy. That is a success that the people demanded when they voted on February 15 to bring the Team Unity administration into being. I am humbled, and we all are, by the opportunity to serve the people. 5 years since 2015, we ask, where are we now? The answer on the two platforms which we brought to the people, democracy, good governance, and the prosperity agenda, we have advanced on every front, and we are stronger than we were in 2015. We have experienced since 2015 5 consecutive years of positive growth. The last 5 years before us, 2010 to 2014, we experienced negative growth in 2010, in 2011, in 2012. Negative growth in accumulation of over 6%, Mr. Speaker. And over that 5-year period, the average growth was just around 1%, Mr. Speaker. That is the reality. 5 years, Mr. Speaker, of consecutive growth. Today, we stand with the highest per capita income of all the member states within the ECCU currency union. Today, we stand as a country with one of the largest reserves in history. Today, we stand among our peers with the lowest debt to GDP ratio of all independent states within the currency union. Stark contrast to what was before Team Unity, when the world looked at us, scared and afraid of us, wondering how any government could have taken their debt to GDP ratio to nigh 200%. That is what it was. Fiscal recklessness and mismanagement. Yes. We had to accord with. Mr. Speaker, importantly, the international assessment of our country, which has come through the World Justice Project, it ranks us number 1 #1 of all countries in the sub-region and the matter of good governance. And 8 indicators, and St. Kitts and Nevis has been ranked for 2 consecutive years as #1 in the OECS, and the rule of law, #2 in the rest of the sub-region. So it is true to say that St. Kitts and Nevis, 5 years doing business with Team Unity, stands proudly as the quintessential example of the best small island, best managed small island state in our region. That is what we have done in the short of 5 years. Our economy today is stronger than we met it. A record number of persons have real jobs. Over 3,000 persons have received various forms of housing support, be it through the National Housing Corporation, be it through our home repair program, be it through the health program instituted by the National Housing Corporation, or be it the nigh 600 beneficiaries of the first-time home mortgage program, be it the nigh 200 beneficiaries under the government employee program. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have done quite a lot. In the last 5 years, we had to grapple with the mess left behind by an administration that had been in place for 20 years, that brought fiscal morass, that brought us international shame and embarrassment with our most significant and important international partners. I want to commend our Minister of Foreign Affairs for leading the efforts to reposition and recalibrate our relationships with the government of Canada and the USA. Mr. Speaker, our country is moving on more securely and better than it was then. And it came from hard work. It came from doing the right things, not because they were convenient to do. We did them simply because it was the right thing to do. That is why we paid off the IMF the $117 million left behind by the former administration. That is why we went to the government of Venezuela and we agreed to pay the debt that was left behind by the former administration, because we had to act responsibly with the rest of the international community. Mr. Speaker, in terms of our manifesto commitments, we have done wonderfully. I should have walked with the manifesto. You have it? See, we are a team. One forgot, the other remembers, Mr. Speaker. This was the manifesto for 2015 to 2020, Prosperity for All, and it's well worked. So we flip the cover. The key Team Unity policies at a glance. $500 funded family support for households earning $3,000 or less per month. Promise made, promise delivered by the administration. We say that we will guarantee that programs like PEP will continue and be upgraded to step up so young people can have real opportunities for self-employment, for appropriate training, for permanent jobs, and earn a decent wage that they can live on. We have done that. We have moved from PEP to STEP, and we are working to ensure that all the workers on the STEP program, through appropriate training, will become and find permanent jobs. We promised and we delivered no VAT on food and medicine and educational supplies and funeral expenses. In debt when families are traumatized, especially the poor. We found it unconscionable that the government that introduced the most extortionate introductory VAT rate would choose to tax our people not only in life, but to tax them in debt. And we brought an end to that viciousness by the former administration. We said we would create over 2,000 new jobs within our first term. We have delivered, according to Social Security, perhaps nearly 2 times that in terms of the registration of new persons into the scheme. Promises made, promises delivered. We say that we will make prompt payment of overdue 16 million gratuity still owed to the farmer sugar workers who were told in 2005 that the sugar industry will close over the dead body of the leader then. The sugar industry did close, and he's still alive. Thanks be to God. But importantly, when he closed the sugar industry, only 968 persons received any form of severance benefit from an industry which in its heyday boasted over 6,000 workers. 968 earned a penny. And many of the former sugar workers and their family were aggrieved. That is why we said we will bring some system of restoration. Thankfully, the government of Venezuela came to our support and provided us with the $16 million that were required. We, of our own, invested in the setting up of the office and other support to the entity which we had established. We then paid out $17.5 million to 2,432 successful applicants comprising farmer sugar workers or their beneficiaries. And they came from Nevis, they came from St. Kitts, they came from Guyana, they came from the Dominican Republic. Whoever they were, in a transparent manner, we opened up the process. We set up an entire office over at next to the courthouse. What do we call that street? South Stewart Street. And gave people time to come to fill in the forms and to have them being processed by an appropriate committee. So compare 968 beneficiaries under the party supposedly that love poor people and love sugar workers to 2,432 persons under a team unity government. Yes, we spoke and discovered highlighting the key issues that we will deal with, that we will provide over 3,000 house lots for our people who are in need of decent housing, and that we will construct and support over 2,000 new homes. Well, we said we have produced over 3,000 housing solutions already. We have given well over 3,000 house lots, including in the last 2 years when we redeemed 400 acres of land from the land for debt swap, making them available to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis at affordable rates. Under the land for debt swap, the price at which those lands would have had to be sold, just at cost, was just over $11 per square foot. And that is why we oppose it, because we said that no ordinary person in Lodge Atlas, no ordinary person in Sandy Point and Fig Tree, no ordinary person in Kayard, no ordinary person over in number 4, indeed no ordinary person anywhere in St. Kitts and Nevis would be able to pay $11 per square foot of land. So we have redeemed the lands and brought them back to the people. We spoke about the reduction in mortgage payments for NHC houses because the arrears were substantial and too many people, while they were happy for their homes, could not pay. The interest rate then ranged around 9%. This team Unity administration brought it down into a tiered response. 2% if you're at the lowest level, 3% if you're a medium wage owner, and I think it was 5% at the upper end. So we have delivered. We spoke finally education fund to underwrite university costs for persons lacking collateral. More assistance has been granted to those wanting to study than at any other time in the history of the country under this administration. Hundreds of students now are all over the world being supported by the Team Unity administration. The Ministry of Education introduced a program to enhance the human capital of our teachers and to pay for a master's program. How many beneficiaries do we have, Honorable Minister? 54 teachers are being assisted with the master's program, the largest investment in postgraduate education to be undertaken by any administration in the history of St. Christopher and Nevis. That is the record, Mr. Speaker, that we are talking about. The record includes the improved and enhanced relationship between the people of Nevis and the people of St. Kitts. Yes, Mr. Speaker, there is a long way to go, but where we are the best ever in terms of the relationship, the quality of the relationship between St. Christopher and the island of Nevis, Mr. Speaker. We introduced in our first term the notion of giving budgetary support to the Nevis Island Assembly, and that has continued every year. For the first time under Team Unity administration, Nevis was able to access resources to assist in its development to the SIDF and to the federal government. The Honorable Premier spoke eloquently about that at the recent opening of the Treasury building. Those who have visited the Munder Track in Nevis would see also another example of what the new relationship has brought. So we have come from afar. When several years ago, under the former administration, the check for the workers of the NIA was bounced in order to bring shame and confusion on the island of Nevis. So we have come very far, Mr. Speaker. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that we are proud of our accomplishments over the last 5 years. There are too many to be enumerated in one sitting of the Honorable House. We will have to come back every month for me to do another chapter and another chapter, Mr. Speaker. But I believe the delivery of the promises are being well felt by our people. In just 5 years. The $500 that we have made available, as it were, to top up the earning capacity of the poor families is being well appreciated. It has made a difference in their dignity. It has meant for the first time they can say, I will pay my bill monthly out of this, my water bill, my electricity bill, so I don't have to live in darkness with my children. It has meant for the grandmother that she doesn't have to wait for a handout from a daughter or a son. At least she has $500 available to do some things for herself. And the people, Mr. Speaker, are deeply appreciated. Those who were there for 20 years too long can say anything now because their promise will be like a comfort to a fool. If for 20 years, 20 long years of our lives, for some of us, it was all of our voting life we have given to one party, and they didn't do the things that we needed them to do. And they want to come, in the last shower of rain, as we would say, to ask another chance. Well, this is not a raffle. This is not a raffle. This is not a bingo, and in any event we control the O. So they will not get through that way, Mr. Speaker. The government of the country requires people with a certain discipline and capacity and patriotism who are willing to make sacrifice to advance the country from point A to a higher and better position than we have met it. And that is what we have done over the last 5 years. And I am grateful for the support of the country and the understanding, Mr. Speaker. Today, as we stand, the people in our country feel safer. The people in our country have opportunities and finances. Their finances are in a better shape. Mr. Speaker, we didn't achieve the position of the best managed small island state by accident. It wasn't by luck. It wasn't by chance. We got here because the cabinet of the country and the individuals making up the party determined that we will put the people before politics and before party. We work together for the benefit of both islands, and we are doing excellently as a team. No wonder, Mr. Speaker, people are saying confidently, in the truth of it, that 5 years of team unity better than 20 years of the former administration. 5 years of team unity. We have done more than any other administration in its first term. The peace must never be taken for granted, because peace really is the will of God. And wherever you see people are attempting to create discord and confusion, you know their ways are not good ways. And so I want to ask the country to continue to pray, our people to continue to work hard, our people to show discipline, our people to appreciate the virtues of industry and sacrifice, and always in their heart to carry a love for St. Kitts and Nevis. I know, Mr. Speaker, that the country will continue to move forever forward, and we will never go back to what we rejected on the 16th of February 2015. So, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted, as we commemorate, to put into perspective some of what we have delivered and underscore. It is important too, Mr. Speaker, and I move to a second statement, for me to record and reaffirm the adherence and allegiance of the Team Unity administration to democracy. Because, you see, Mr. Speaker, as we celebrate our outstanding achievements on behalf of the people, it is important for us to remind ourselves and our well-wishers that as a government and people, we will always be glued to the essential tenets of parliamentary democracy, and we will respect our Constitution. So there is no need for anxiety out there about when elections will come. Elections will come in due season, and it certainly will come within the time frame provided by the Constitution. That is a commitment we made. So if there are people out there wanting to ring bell, ring any imaginary bell. But that is not the call for the elections. And we can give them one, paint it blue, yellow, and orange. We could even paint it red, because that bell is an imaginary bell. It has no meaning, no significance in the context of the election. The Constitution is what guides us. And so I want to say that my government will be committed to that. And the examples of this, very real. In the last year, full year, of the bygone administration, they convened the parliament 4 times. 4 times. Every year since 2015, this parliament has met more times consistently, at least twice as many times the parliament has been convened each year under the theme Unity Administration. One of the dark points in our history, Mr. Speaker, was the refusal of the bygone administration to call the motion of no confidence. Call the motion of no confidence, allow the parliament to debate it, and the people to determine. Hijack the country, forcing us, Mr. Speaker, to go to the court, and for Her Honor, the judge, Coletta Lance, to rule that the decision of the former regime to withhold the motion of no confidence was unconstitutional. Mark you, this is the same set of people asking when we will have an election as if there's a problem in the country.
Oh my goodness.
But for 26 months, when faced with a motion of no confidence, which challenged their legitimacy to govern, which challenged even the legality of what they were doing, they held it in abeyance, went on 26 months too long. This is what it was. The election should have been called in 2013. The election should have been called when in December he said he did not have the support of the members of his own cabinet to be able to bring the budget within time.
There was no confidence.
Because the failure in the Westminster system of democracy to pass a budget is equivalent to a vote of no confidence.
Yes, that's what it is.
But they held it in abeyance for 2.5 years, Mr. Speaker. And we made the commitment that that kind of disgraceful precedent by the bygone administration would never repeat itself. And accordingly, we passed the Motion of No Confidence Act, number 10 of 2019, on the 28th of November, 2019, to make it pellucidly obvious that priority must be given to a motion of no confidence. Irony of ironies. The same set of people who refused for 26 months to convene the parliament to deal with the motion of no confidence had the brass face to bring a motion of no confidence in the government and ask that it be treated as a matter of emergency. And they felt we weren't going to respond. But we're smarter than them.
Yeah.
And so we said, since you want a debate, let us have the debate. Within probably, 2 weeks? 7 days, we convened the parliament. Interrupted the Christmas of persons because they said it was urgent.
Yes.
The law says you must give it priority.
Yes.
And we therefore said, let us come and hear what was so urgent. The motion wasn't even written properly.
No.
It did not identify some of the persons to whom it referenced properly.
No.
It did not have correct dates.
No.
But in any event, we allowed the debate. And it was same old posturing from the same old leadership, Same old abuse, same old discordant noise in the parliament, which the people rejected. We want to make it clear that on the Team Unity, we will never go back to that traumatic period of 2012 to 2015, when the arrogance and insecurity of the outdated regime caused it to foist itself on the people, even when it was very clear that that regime had lost its legitimacy and constitutional anchor. We will move forward in our next term to further enhance parliamentary practice and the Constitution as the fulcrum of a functioning democracy. We will, in our second term, continue our work to bring constitutional reform to our 36-year-old 1983 Constitution. Our enlightened view causes us to debate in our parliament a seminal constitutional reform by way of the Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis, tenure of the office of the Prime Minister, Amendment Bill 2019. The opposition voted to deny a most significant and the first ever attempt in history, the first ever attempt in history to reform the Constitution, which was being done by Team Unity. They voted to deny this significant development because they want to preserve, they say, a leader for life. Well, St. Kitts is not Zimbabwe. St. Kitts is not. St. Kitts is not one of those states where you are a leader for life. St. Kitts must always be an enlightened democracy, and St. Kitts must lead in that regard. So, Mr. Speaker, we will have an opportunity in our second term when we are returned here with an increased majority of members on this side to effect the necessary constitutional reforms for which the opposition has now been obstructionist in their approach. And perhaps it's shame, but we could well get rid of shame by doing the right thing. 20 years, they say it was a bad constitution. 20 years, they faulted the Bryan Clause, so to speak. And 20 years, no effort, even when they was all it, even when they were all it, even when they had all the power,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, to effect the changes, they never did. And several commissions
Yes.
by Sir Fred Philip,
Yes.
they never did. So, Mr. Speaker, we want to enlarge the freedom. We want to provide opportunities for new people to assume leadership, for the breath of fresh air to always be there in the corridors of power. And that is why we move the motion to bring a finite life to the tenure of the Prime Minister in office. And we will bring it again in our second term, because it is good. A majority of countries are doing that. In the USA, 8 years as president, and then someone new. People point to that as the model of democracy. We are saying 10 years, so we give you 2 more years. And if you can't serve for that period and deliver and create your own legacy, then you shouldn't worry the people to come back again. Come back again, old time something will come back again 20 years after. Can't be good for democracy. Mr. Speaker, I want to go quickly to the matter of the elections and to make the point that this administration has been given a constitutional mandate to govern St. Kitts and Nevis until around the middle of August 2020. Listen, the Constitution which we are working toward allows the government in its first term to proceed until the middle of August 2020. Indeed, we are happy because Team Unity has been the most successful coalition government in the history of the Caribbean. In recent times, no other coalition government made it through their first term intact. Not A&R Robinson coalition in Trinidad before the end of the first term, Panda left. Not Kamla Prasad Bisesar before the end of her first term. Two of the parties were basically wavering. Not Tillman Thomas in his coalition of forces in Grenada. Before the end of the first term, he was faced with some 3 motions of no confidence. He was able to overcome at least 2, and on the third one, he was forced into a premature election. St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin. Well, don't talk about St. Martin and them people. Every year is an election, maybe every 6 months. We have shown the Caribbean how coalition government can work successfully. We have shown the benefit of a consultative process in democracy. And that is why sometimes when our critics say, well, the government moving slow and this slow and that, it is part of the reality of the coalition structure and part of the reality that we have to consult and have consensus on any matter with fundamental importance. It's all. We have no one-man show in the Team Unity administration. And that is a consequence of that. So yes, we have defied the odds with regarding the success. Look at it now. Think on it. We couldn't last for 6 weeks. We couldn't last for 6 months. We were to fall prematurely. Now we are standing, going into our second term. And they can't wait no more. The expectations that we couldn't work as a team have been crushed and crushed. Thanks to the members of the Team Unity administration. Thanks. The disinformation campaign about this unity in Team Unity has not been lived in our cabinet. You may have Wewe on the street. You may have persons maybe close to some member. But in our cabinet, which has been meeting regularly, sometimes 3 times per week, on matters of fundamental importance, we always operate as a team and with respect in the parliament. I'm not concerned with hearsay and rumors because there will always be those. But I know every Monday, or this week we met Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's not a cabinet in discard. A cabinet is in discard is like what you had in 2012 when you couldn't convene a parliament having announced it because you didn't have the support of your members to be able to pass vital legislation. So I want to go specifically to the Constitution on which we are relying, so that there be no misunderstanding about our constitutional mandate to govern, supreme law of the land. It says, and let's be clear, Section 47, subsection 2 states that subject to subsection 3, Parliament, unless sooner dissolved, shall continue for 5 years from the date of the first sitting of the National Assembly after any dissolution, and shall then stand dissolved. Again, what is important is not the February elections. What is important is the first sitting of the National Assembly. You begin to count 5 years. And it goes on. Section 48(1) states that a general election of members of the National Assembly shall be held at such time within 90 days after any dissolution of the Parliament as the Governor General may appoint. The Constitution provides for an administration term to continue 90 days. 90 days. I heard somebody were talking, he giving 36 days. But that not come from the Constitution. I don't know what is that. That probably coming from Rum Barrel. The Constitution provides for an administration's term to continue 90 days after the 5th anniversary of the first sitting of the Parliament. So do the maths. Our first sitting of the Parliament was on May 14, 2015. 14th May 2015. The 5-year anniversary is therefore the 14th day of May 2020. And 90 days thereafter take us up to about the 12th of August 2020. That is where we are living. That is the democracy. This is what the highest law of the land says. So there is no need for any anxiety in the community about when is the election. The election will be called when we are good and ready. That is when it will be called, in the context of the Constitution. Yeah? The ages say, you know, and our Westminster model is a kind of interesting model. Because within the constitutional framework, it did say you can go sooner at the discretion of the Prime Minister, or whenever there is a successful motion of no confidence. They are the only two. Well, we defeated the frivolous motion of no confidence that came in 2018, so there is no motion of no confidence that could force a premature calling of the elections. And I am so very comfortable. I'm not thinking elections just now. I'm thinking about serving the people. I'm thinking about serving the people. I'm thinking about doing more for the poor, for the elderly. I am thinking about upgrading the services of our health hospital, our hospital. I am thinking about more scholarships for our young people to go abroad and study. I am thinking about delivering music studio and cultural developments for our young people. I am thinking about ensuring that we establish a framework in which the cannabis industry can be developed in St. Kitts and Nevis, and no foreign man will come into our country, disrespect our farmers, disrespect our laws, hoots their dog and the workers up at Kyanjet. It will never happen as we build out the cannabis industry. Those are the things about which I am agitated. Because I am sure, based on performance, whether we call it for the 12th of August or earlier, the Team Unity Administration will be returned. Will be returned. That is what we are dealing with, Mr. Speaker. And I say to the people finally then, to consolidate the gains of a functioning democracy, our people must ensure that we are returned. Not the same way. The polls are in fact indicating that we will be returned with an enhanced majority. And I don't want to say all 11. I am saying return us as handsomely as we deserve and ensure we have a sufficient number to bring about fundamental reforms to constitutional amendment in the Constitution. So I say thank you for not getting carried away. I want to thank the people because some politicians do not understand that the circumstances that created lawlessness in 1993 no longer prevail in the land. Nobody is going to walk down Stewart Street anymore, mashing up people's glasses, shutting down businesses, creating mayhem in our country. That day has long passed because we are an enlightened people. And we have to respect law and order and peace in the country. No wonder the peace initiative have them upset, because they want an environment in which lawlessness can be excited and incited. But thank God, our people are well informed. And I thought, Mr. Speaker, that this morning, as we are celebrating our success, I wanted to highlight significantly is the success of our practicing and functioning democracy that is alive and well, and on which this government is operating. May it please you, thank God for the Team Unity administration, thank God for our people. May God forever bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and our beautiful country.